Hello and welcome to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and this week we are looking at student pens. And for student pens, I want something that is durable, and so a lot of these pens have been plastic. I want it to be relatively inexpensive. Now that's a subjective criteria, of course, but relatively inexpensive or downright cheap, like in the example yesterday with the Jinhao Shark, just a cheap but good pen. I want it to be, what did I just say? Durable, inexpensive, easy to refill. Now, I am including pens that take some proprietary cartridges because a lot of pens take proprietary cartridges. That's not my favorite, but I've decided not to disqualify those pens. But it does have to be, I will say this, if it takes a proprietary cartridge, it has to be easily attained. And so, at least for where we are here in the U.S., you have to be able to, log onto the internet, order it, and have it in a couple of days. That's what I'm thinking, and not crazy expensive. So, durable, inexpensive, easily refilled. One of the reasons for inexpensive, easily replaced. One that, if I lose it, it doesn't rip out my insides, you know what I mean? So there is that. So those are some, and of course it has to write well or forget it, right? So today, what do I have on the list? It is the Kaweco Perkio or Perkeo, however you want to say that today, but it's a relatively new pen just in the last year or so to the market. It has a little bit different design, although there's definitely familiar Kaweco design language. So we'll look at that. We'll look at how it writes. We'll look at what I like. We'll look at what I don't like, and why I think that this is a pen for your consideration if you are looking for a good lightweight. That's another criteria. Lightweight student pen. Comfort, very important. Let's flip the camera and look closer at this pen. All right, let's take a closer look here at the Kaweco Perkio. Now, the first thing that you will notice, of course, is that this cap is very similar, but not the same, as that on the Kaweco Sport. And I have, I didn't bring it with me today, but I have the Kaweco Ice Sport that I really do like. Great little pocket pen. This cap is a little bit different. One, you will notice that it has this sort of the retro Kaweco logo, which I really like, and then modern font Germany. And I like this, just molded in like that. I think I prefer that to what's on the Sport. That's just a personal preference, but I kind of like that. This pen does come in several colors. Well, 4 or 5 colors, 4 different color schemes, and an all black. Some of you like all black pens, including the nib, and they do have that stealthy version of the Kaweco Perkio. What's different about this cap is that it is just a snap-on friction cap. So I like that, actually. You can deploy the pen that much more quickly, and so that's nice and simple. It does make it to where, as far as, I don't really have, with these modern fountain pens, a lot of leakage problems, but it's not sealed the same way that the Sport is, and since that's a pocket pen, that's more of a concern. It should, as I said, don't have the clip with me, be able to use the clip from the Sport if you wanted it to. And so anyway, let's look further down. The barrel is faceted. This is an all-plastic pen, so it's really quite light, but the barrel is faceted. At the end of the barrel, let me get that to focus, it does say Germany. Not sure you're going to be able to catch that in the light because of the color of this pen. You will notice that it does have, you see those air holes? There are openings that are recessed at the end of the barrel and the top of the cap. And so this pen in its current form could not be eyedroppered. But you might think, hey, I don't know, that would be a great pen to eyedropper. What a load of ink you could put in that plastic barrel. And you could. You would just need to find a way to seal. I would do it from the inside, but to seal this. And if you can get this sealed, you would have a great eyedropper. This is, I think, a pen that they know is going to be used as a student pen, and so it has those, just like the Kakuno, it has those safety openings for a choke hazard. I don't know why we're all swallowing our pens, but whatever. kids. At the top of the cap is the traditional, you will know it from the sport, the Kaweco logo that's been around for a long time. So I like that finial. That's pretty cool. And that ties it in with the other designs because in a lot of ways this is not identical to other Kaweco pins. So let's keep going and we'll see some more of those differences. One, you look at the feed, and even though this looks really similar to the nib and feed of a sport, it's not identical. They're just slightly different in dimension. It is a short nib. These are number 5s, just like the sport. They are both 5 nibs. This does come in medium, and I believe medium is the only nib they're offering at the moment in this pen, but I do wonder if you couldn't swap that out. It's certainly worth a shot if you can get it out. I haven't tried it, to swap that with a sport if you wanted fine or extra fine or broad or whatever. So there is that. It's available right now in medium. It's, you know, a very familiar looking Kaweco nib. It certainly looks a lot like the other, but it is short. That's the one thing about it. And let me just compare this, since I have a Kakuno here. Let's take a look at that one too. You will just notice that it's wider and shorter, and not quite as happy as the Pilot Kakuno. But I would consider these very comparable pens. I would think they're fighting for a lot of the same buyers. Like the Kakuno, like the Safari, like the Shark yesterday, it does have the ergonomic grip. In this case, it's a true 3-sided and not rounded on the bottom. So, you know, you'll like or you will dislike that. Let me just kind of show you the differences in the grips too while we're there. This one is much smoother. Both are comfortable. I find the Kakuno to kind of be personally, I think it's the king and the comfort of those particular style of grips. And I do have, actually, the Lamy Safari here too, which has a much larger, grip section and larger flat section than that. So that gives you some good comparison. You'll notice that section is just about 2/3, and especially the flattened part of what you get on a Safari. So that may be something you like, or it might be something you dislike about one or the other. But that gives you at least a frame of reference. High quality materials. It's plastic. Let me give you a little bit of a beef about it though. For the price you pay, and this pen is going to be give or take by a couple of dollars, around the $15 range, which makes it $10 cheaper most of the time than the Safari, and about the same price as the Kakuno. So it's competitive. But I do think that even though I think overall, I think the materials are great, I think they look good. You see the seams a little bit more than you do in some of the competition. So, you know, depending on whether or not that bothers you, that is there, just helping you make an informed decision. Maybe that's no big deal to you at all. I do like, before I open it back up, a couple of things here. I like the ergonomic section. I find it to be comfortable. Not as comfortable as the Kakuno, but comfortable. I like the blue here on the pen that I've got, other colors and other pens, just to kind of break up the monotony of this gray. When you close this, it kind of snaps. Do you hear that? Into place. I would take that into consideration if you were going to seal this and make this into an eyedropper. It's just make sure, you might test it with water first. Make sure that that's going to seal. It may. I'm just saying, you know, be sure. You definitely have to use silicone and maybe even an O-ring. But it has that kind of a snap, so I don't know. Yeah, they hear that. The Hexo has the same thing. Faber-Castell. It takes, this is a plus, okay? This is a positive of this pen. Boy, that looks stubby, doesn't it? But that's an international short because it's what I had on hand, and that one's from Birmingham Pens. They had a big sale when they were swapping out the old ink before starting to make their own on cartridges, and boy, I bought a bunch of bags of those because what had been $40 was $10, and so I got some of those. Great blue ink too, I like it. And International shorts fit, international longs fit. A standard converter, international standard converter, should work just fine. Get one from, Kaweco or Schmidt or something like that, and that should work great in this pen. I don't have one in it because I had just used up the cartridge that came with it and grabbed one of these out of the drawer because it's what was handy. Didn't have a spare converter at the moment. So I find that to be really good. You can, of course, carry a one converter in the pen and a spare mini in this long barrel. Now that's an advantage that the Sport does not have. I really like the Sport, but this has the advantage of being able to carry a spare international short cartridge within the barrel, which that's great in a student pen. So that's also an advantage. Another advantage is, as I mentioned, this is $10 cheaper than the Sport. And yet, functionally, it's in many ways the same pen. It's just, it looks quite different. It stylistically, it's not the same, but functionally, very, very similar pen, even though the nib is slightly different, the feed is slightly different. You're really getting a very similar pen. And so, that's the design and some of the things that I like and don't like. I like the snap cap. That would be, a personal decision. Some of you might rather have the screw-on cap. I like that. I like the size of it. It's very well balanced. It's lightweight. So it has those same advantages that the Kakuno has. Similar in weight, a little bit longer, well balanced. It posts very securely. Kind of forgot to tell you that, but it does quite securely, so you don't have to worry about that rolling off your desk or whatever. Very important. I think it meets all of those things. It's a good knockabout pen. It's a lightweight pen. It's not the cheapest pen because we just got through looking at Jinhao's, but it's a reasonably inexpensive pen, especially when you're looking at one that is made in Germany, and those tend to cost more here in the U.S., so that's a thing. But competitive to the Kakuno. And I think a good alternative to, say, that or the Safari if you just want something different or less expensive than the Safari and less expensive than a Sport. But let's get to the writing test. All right, so let's put this pen to paper and see how it does. This is, again, a Kaweco Perkio, and this is the medium nib, which I think is a solid medium. And again, this is, and I'm going to abbreviate, that is Birmingham Pen Company Blue. And this is a discontinued set of cartridges, which is a shame because they're really good. I'm glad I bought a couple hundred of them a few months ago. That's about as wet as I thought it would be. So, of course, wetness is both a function of nib and ink, not just one or the other. But a good wet writer keeps up flow, no problems whatsoever. I used this pen when I got it. I put it through the paces on taking notes, writing for classes and work and things like that. I try not to just get these out of a box and do a review. I'd like to live with them for a couple of weeks if I can, and months even better. This one I've had for a good bit, actually, and I put them through the paces. What I think are its pluses, I think it has a good smooth Kaweco medium nib, and I like that. It is definitely going to meet all those things as far as durability. This is going to be a hard pen to just absolutely knock about and wear out. I will say, too, solid colors, it'll hide the scratches and the wear a whole lot better than my Ice Sport has, because that's partly clear, and then translucent blue, it really shows. So I think it's definitely durable. Affordability is going to be in the eye of the beholder. What's your budget? But it is about, on average, about $15. And I know if you're new to fountain pens, that just seems, what? But for a German pen, of any kind that's pretty inexpensive. And you do get a solid quality German nib and steel nib, and a company with a good reputation and a long history. And so, depending on who you are and what you like and what is and is not your preference, that is there. But it's a great school pen, and I do think that it really is a good competitor to the Kakuno, which is, it's a hard pen to beat. I really do like it. I really like the Lamy Safari now. I didn't for a long time, but I do now. But this does definitely have a price advantage. I will, even with the clip that has taken years to grow on me, I do like the style of the all-black Lamy. Probably a little bit better, but this, you can get this in all black, and then I think it looks pretty cool too. It's just not the one that I wanted to get for this test, and I already had this in black and a couple other all black pens, so I was branching out. But I like it. I think it's a great pen and great for the criteria of this particular series. It's relatively affordable, it is durable, it is easy to find ink cartridges for, it's easy to find converters for it, it's easy to reload on the fly. You can even carry a small International extra cartridge in the barrel. Theoretically, it's even is this a word? Eyedropperable? I'm going to have to go back to school. But it's a good pen. So this is on my list of pens to share with you this week because I think it is a good pen. You can look at the pros and cons and see what you think for yourself. But God bless you. Have a great week. And if you're in the area of Louisiana or the Gulf Coast area at all, know that our thoughts and prayers are going out for you. Stay safe, and God bless.